Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Max Rounds 30 podcast where there is no overtime. As usual, I'm joined by our boy Koi from MTU Esports over there, Jeff from Dust to US, and myself, Jacob Cast or something. I don't know.
Jacob Halo Flyer Halfman, caster for UWW Whitewater, and sometimes he covers the C stream for ESEA.
Hey, I was on the B stream, thank you. All right, well, whatever. In 30 minutes, we'll be covering all of this week's NA Counter-Strike Global Offensive content. This is week 5 of season number 2. And we've got some interesting headline news. I mean, we reported on a few things. Oh, before I start that, let me click the timer button because I always forget to do that. There we go, 30 minutes on the clock. That's what we have, so... but yeah, so we reported on some news last week, and then immediately the day after we had a bunch of shit happen. So I guess we'll kind of start with the culmination of a few different things. Of course, Triumph kind of exploded out everywhere. I forget exactly what we touched on, but the biggest news from that was SHAKEZULLAH leaving. He was the kind of catalyst to them all kind of blowing up, but SHAKEZULLAH left Triumph, and now we have SHAKEZULLAH to Bad News Bears as of he played a cash cup with them, so it wasn't that discreet, but then it was officially announced after the invites for Cologne were announced. So what are our thoughts on SHAKEZULLAH to BNB?
Pog. It's going to be great.
No, you didn't say Pog. You didn't say Pog when we were warming up.
Yeah.
I said Pog. You said what was it? You said Peter was washed.
Ah, no, not this again. Not this again. I think
this is a great move because SHAKEZULLAH is the best IGL we have that isn't on liquid or extra salt, and he's going to help the team advance as they're going to get ready to take on European opposition. You said... Well, what'd you say, Koi?
So,
looking at
man, it's always me. It's always me. Monster's going to be in my mentions yet again. So I definitely think that it's overall a beneficial move. SHAKEZULLAH and benching Alter is definitely going to be beneficial for the team in the long run. But PTR's, big advantage was that he was capable of IGLing as well as opping. Statistically speaking, he's not fantastic. I haven't really watched a ton of their games to give a full to really understand if it's just because he's the selfless kind of IGL where he's always setting up his team, or if he's just playing the role style of he's just playing the Deddy op role, not going for those intense entries, just holding angles. I don't know. But for that reason, it really makes you wonder if maybe there's a different
options,
better options for a primary op or something like that. I know particular Jeff tossed around the idea of Ponalone or something like that instead of Peter, because Ponalone's statistically a little bit more of a flashy player.
Well, you would remember then in our warm-up that me and Jacob were standing in the corner that we think Peter still has the potential to be a strong opper now that he doesn't have the IGL. And because if you're going to have someone like SHAKEZULLAH on the team who's doesn't really need to put up numbers, maybe that'll liberate PTR and allow him just to go back to, full Deddy opper and maybe become more aggressive and not have to, hang back.
Yeah. I mean, I'd really like that to be the case. And I think that as soon as he's able to stop worrying about what the team is doing and focus on himself, he is going to have a big playstyle change. However, it really begs the question of how's that playstyle change going to work when they're no longer playing against NA Premier teams and they're now playing in Europe.
That's a big concern.
Yeah, where obviously the competition is going to be a lot stiffer. And for someone that's starting to relearn their role, not relearn, but change how their role is played, it'll be interesting to see how the timing of that works out. Because overall, it's going to be better, but it's going to be tough for PTR over the next month or two.
I will say, I am very excited for this team. The only thing that I would say is maybe even a bigger fundamental concern, something that was kind of laid out when they were playing the RMR. There was a lot of talk about how Janji kind of gets neutralized when he plays against stronger teams, like when he runs up against like the Liquids, the Pains, the Extra Salts of the world. Do you think that's going to be a significant issue when they head to Europe, that teams will just be ready for that kind of play style and won't let him just be aggro all the time?
Yeah, except I think that if there's someone that can fix and address that mid-game, it's going to be Shake. I think that SHAKEZULLAH is going to add a little bit of a backbone to their play style that'll allow them to make the changes necessary mid-game, especially because during these RMR games and stuff like that, coaching's not allowed, right? So you're not able to have that that third party to really give their ideas as to how they should approach the game, and Shake's got a pretty good handle on that.
I think also, like, you take into account now, you're going to have both Shake and Peter. I mean, of course, Shake likely going to be, the primary caller, but if you have those two minds working together, that could even work. Who knows how that could work together. I mean, especially in a team that, ideally play to get to the major, etc. Like that. And you don't have that coach, like you said. So I don't know. It's going to be interesting. I saw lots of flashes of really strong opping out of Peter earlier in, I believe, season 36. I think it was in season 36. He was playing like out of his mind in some games, and I was just like, yes, I saw it a lot on Mirage, of course, being such a strong home map for Bad News Bears, but it's going to be interesting because I'd like to see Peter kind of play at that level consistently, because if he can, that team it's like certified scary. So, we've seen their flashes of them being really crazy, and we've kind of seen them dip below sometimes. So I don't know. It'll be interesting to see how they do come out as a result of this move. But we will have a little bit more on them and some of the other topics a little bit later in the show. But we're going to move on to our next headline topic, I think.
Before we move on, there's one thing there's two little just threads I want to touch on. For one, we had the reunion of SHAKEZULLAH and Spongy, and I find it interesting because it's sort of almost like a Sticko-esque story for Spongy, in the sense that he was cut from Triumph, and now the godhead of Triumph, SHAKEZULLAH, is back with his old support player, and maybe this time around he'll have a bigger appreciation for the value Spongy provides to the team. And then something I feel like people aren't really giving much attention to is, what do we think about the removal of Alter? Like, I'm kind of blind to what he provided the team, but do we think he was an integral part of Bad News Bears?
I don't. It always felt like he was. It's really hard to kind of like hate on a player for like a lack of experience reason, just because he's playing with such experienced players. But Alter did seem to commonly be one of the people that were more exploited from time to time if they weren't having a great game or something like that. Similar to how you'd say, when Janji gets shut down, the team loses. Alter was found a lot. And that could just be because he's being put into positions that's expected that he dies a lot or something like that. But I think that I don't think Alter's quite ready for Pro League, at least. And I think that's reasonable to say.
I mean, he hasn't necessarily been, like you said, like he hasn't been a standout player on Bad News Bears, and whether that's down to roles or otherwise, we have yet to see. But considering you're putting such a strong IGL like Shake into his position, and where Shake is, statistically kind of around the same level, it feels like, I feel like that's of course a net positive gain. But Alter again wasn't a defining member of this roster, so I do
say,
hope
though,
he does find success elsewhere, though.
I will say Madcow did put out like a touching post-mortem on it, where he basically said like Alter was just like a very selfless player, and he played all like the bitch roles for the team. So I mean, like, there's value in having a player like that who will just kind of, your IGL tells you to be like the bitch that has to hold like ramp on nuke or whatever, or just other painful positions where your stat line is hurting. Like, that's the value of that can't be understated. So I mean, I hope he rebounds, but
yeah, but the thing is that when you look at Lamau, when you look at Bad News Bears roster, like, with the exception of maybe Janji, all of the players on that team would be willing to be a bitch roll, right? Swisher's done it. Spongy definitely has done
Yeah,
it.
Spongy's carried a lot of fucking water for teams in the past. That is true.
Exactly. So like, I'm not sure if like I think that's definitely an underrated thing in North America for sure, but it's definitely not something that's hurting on this team.
Okay.
Yeah, it kind of feels like every single one of the players on that team at this current point are kind of like the rush to complexity, or like the Stewie to liquid before during the Nitro era. You know, like they're just kind of like that bitch role player. You know, they could all fit into that position. So
that's why Bad News Bears is so good. They're just a bunch of bitches.
Somebody quote.
Except for
Giga
Chad, run through Three Smokes Janji.
Yeah.
King of the
Bitch
North American King of Banana. Yeah.
Bad News Bitches.
That is bitches.
All right. Well, we're at the 20-minute mark, so we'll take the time and we'll scoot on to our next topic. And this happened literally like right after we finished recording the show.
Mere moments, in
and
fact.
This was something that was kind of being teased, I guess, was that Third Impact got Walker and Brett back. So Koi has probably the most insight on this whole situation since he's, played with Walker in the past. So I'll let you kind of take this one to start.
Yeah, they went back. I mean, it was pretty easy to tell that like it was a really rushed decision just because, Insane had no idea that it was happening, and then Walker and Brett like so quickly rethought how the problem was there. Or like what the problem was, and they just went back. I'm props to Insane and the guys over at Third Impact for just being so willing to bring him back. I think that was something that's really underrated. And if it was a different team, I don't think it would have happened. I think that bridges would have stayed burned. But they're back now. It was definitely the best option competitively for Third Impact to continue to bring them back as well. It's not like there's better free agents that they could have picked up, especially not ones that already had the experience playing with the team. And the fact that it happened so quickly after they 2-0'd RBG was really surprising. So,
I mean, my God, if you want to talk about burn bridges, though, let's talk about like the other, let's talk about the other half of the equation where Brett and Walker walk into Velaz. They immediately set up a bomb and say, "All right, let's go back. All right, good seeing you guys. Good talk. Let's go back to Third Impact."
My favorite part of this whole situation are the jokes on Twitter about people just saying this is like just a big brain move by Insane. He's just like goes and sets off a bomb in their biggest competition. That is a funny narrative. Of course, that's not what happened, but is a hilarious narrative to think about. But holy shit, Velaz is fucking dead. Wow. That is like the most unfortunate set of events that could possibly happen for a roster that was on their trajectory. Holy fuck.
Yeah, Velaz felt like they were on the up and up. Like everyone was, starting to click better. From what I heard from Aiden, at least, who stepped down due to his own personal schedule things, like the team was still overall like feeling good, and he would have continued playing except for his schedule issues. So the fact that it just went up in smoke like that was a little crazy.
Well, I think the issue was like from what I've heard from sources is that once they kicked Dummerin, they were kind of like reflecting on it and they're like, oh fuck, what have we done? And after that, they're like, it's fine. We have Walker, we have Brett, it's great. Like everything's fine. But when those two leave, like everyone's like sitting around and they're like, well, we can't bring Dummerin back. We can't bring Kaber back because he's already playing for Censored. So we don't really have enough players to hold onto the premier slot anymore, and Aiden won't play. And that's like when, Sherps opens the door on a skyscraper and like jumps out, like because yeah, because like the problem was like I broke it down to one of their players was the essential issue they had was they had burnt through this like adding Walker and Brett and then doing all this muting and shit. They only had 2 roster moves left, and one of the players they brought back would have needed to be Domrin or Kaber, and so because of that they would need to add another player, but because of that they would have to use either their coach who for those who don't know, lives in Poland, who's going to get like 300 ping to like probably Dallas, so that doesn't work. Or their analyst, Ira Rascal, who I think has played maybe only at like the main level. So yeah, like when you break it down like that, once Brett and Walker left, like there was no future for this team, and there was really no there's really no willpower to like keep it together either, because I think everyone kind of realized that kicking Domerin was probably a bad idea in hindsight, because it was.
Yeah, I mean,
They pulled an NA except they didn't have enough spots for the rest of the players
They
on
had
the team.
they had no Alu to drag them through 6 months of mediocre results.
Yeah. So also just a quick note on this as well. So Domerin is back on the roster on ESEA, but currently their coach is both the leader and scheduler. And this is just so fucking.
If I had to guess, if I had to put on my thinking cap, like I haven't had a chance to ask him, but it's probably just so when the team gets when a team gets marked out and gets punted back down to open, it's probably just so like he has a slot that he owns, because I know some players are very like they sentimentalize their roster slot, so even if it's like back and open. I know that happened with Ethereal, and Ethereal like seasons ago when their slot died. I forget, one of the players really wanted the slot back and like kept asking for it because it had been his slot since like season 27 or something. So it's like, I'm assuming that's what's going on, is that he's going to use it in open next season.
Yeah, it just sucks too, because this team was 2-0 before they had to, forfeit to Censored because of, obvious roster issues. It's just with a team that was looking like this was going to be their breakout season. Like, God, what a fucking shame. Do we got anything more to say about this before we scoot on?
Can't say that I do.
All right. Well, then the next topic that we have is that Triumph may have died, but they also are kind of alive. So with that, Triumph is currently set to field B-Wills, Twice, and Arzu on an uncontracted basis. So Jeff, did I say it wrong? Ah, fuck.
Well, because his name, it's not your fault because you're a bit new to the scene, right? He used to have an E in there. It used to be REZU, but then he was like,
should know this.
But then he wanted to be cool, so now it's RZU, but it's probably still pronounced Rezu. But mind you, players who don't go on LAN a lot don't get their names pronounced by casters. So
this is true.
I'm pretty sure it's Rezu, but it could be RZU. Maybe he'll tell us after this episode.
Hey, that'd be cool. Leave a comment down below if you.
Hey, if you want to pronounce your name, let us know.
Yes, this goes for all players. Put the phonetic pronunciations of your names in the comments below.
Is it Twice? Is it T-Weiss? We'll never know.
Twoos. It's Twoos.
Twoos. I think we'll have to settle on that. But yeah, so B-Wills is back on the Triumph roster. And of course, they hold on to Cooper and Cynic, and Cynic is now calling.
Apparently, I didn't know about it, but like I heard I was told that apparently he was the IGL of Recon 5, the iteration that was like him and I think like Saturn, or no, it would have been him and then Saturn joined in his place, but like the one with like
Twice and
Twice.
It was like
Cobra.
Twice, Cynic,
Cobra,
yeah. So and then under 21, and those are both good teams that he was on. And if he was the one actually doing the calling for that, like I didn't know about that, but I mean, shit, like
that was definitely the best form of Recon 5 we've seen.
Yeah, so
I feel.
No problems there. I mean, those teams basically came in like third and second place in Premier in their respective seasons, so it's good enough calling for NA. Yeah, and then T-Weiss and Rezu, good players.
Cool. Yeah. I'm excited to see what this team does. Now, it is weird. They are holding, so as I understand, they're just holding onto the Triumph name at the moment. Because we haven't heard a single peep, outside of just various sources from within Triumph. So, we all kind of know what's going on, but at the same time, it's like, what are they doing over there? So you can assume though, but by the fact that they are saying they're on an uncontracted basis, that there is of course some sort of money issue at the core of everything here. So,
if the issue you're relying to is that they have no money, that would probably be the correct assumption, because what the sources are saying is that Triumph is kind of dead, for lack of a better word, because they've run out of funds. They've kind of got high coasted, where despite their best efforts, they just ran out of funding, which is very sad because it leaves Extra Salt as the last free organization in North America that doesn't host the tier 1 lineup.
Yeah. And yeah, it's a damn shame because, you know,
okay, to clarify, not like, you know, you have your third impacts, you have your Recon 5, you have your RBG. Tier 2 lineup, like ones that ones that may go to Europe or may play like a DreamHack Open, right?
Ones that will pay a salary that will keep a player afloat by it.
They'll keep a player fed, yeah.
Correct, right. It's not like this is, you know, gas money org, which, not pointing fingers in any particular org, but that's kind of that's a little bit of a continual thing in North America where player salaries go in between these two levels are vastly different. So
we will pay your league fees if you do 10 sponsored tweets a day for Jerky Pro Sector 6 and Jerky Pro Sector 6 and what's the one energy drink?
Advance? No,
yeah,
that's one of the I thought that was one of the decent ones. I have no idea. I don't keep an eye on those. But anyway, yeah, I don't know. This team, I think that they have a good chance to continue to play well under their slot that they currently have. I mean, they're currently 2-2. They evened themselves out last week with a game where they did actually have most of the returning Triumph roster minus. They had twice play. Was it in the slot of B-Wills? Who they? I forget who.
It was twice B-Will, Shakes, and Cooper. The only change was that Modem was out and Twice was in.
That's who it was. It was
Shake offered to play one more game. He offered to bring against the QC Clan.
That's what it was. Okay, but let's not. We've got a couple more things to cover this show, so we're gonna scoot on and go on talk about CS Summit 8, the North American RMR event, and the results from the first one. So of course we had Liquid, who beat Furia twice in a row to take this one home. So they do take home the beautiful amount of 1,600 RMR points. And the final finishing order for the event, of course, being Liquid, Furia, Extremum, and then I believe after that it was Oplano, and then Exersalt, and then Pain, if I'm correct.
Yeah, that's basically, that's the long and short of it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So, and then the points from that. So, Jeff, I might lean on you a little bit here since you are you're our resident Liquipedia mans. So, as far as like RMR points go, it's kind of weird. It's been weird, hasn't it, with like the carryover from like the RMRs last year and everything? It's
kind of fine now. It's because, no, it's fine now. It's just that Furia and Extremum are up really high because they had good showings at this event, but even though they didn't win the event. Mm-hmm. So, right now you would have Furia, Extremum, and Liquid being the Legends team, so top 8. Then you would have Evil Geniuses being part of like that, the next tier down, and then you have Oplano as being a challenger. And then you have Extra Salt, who are 100 points behind Oplano, Pain Gaming, who have 1,100, and then Benny's Bears with 950, and then Genji with 80. I don't know if you guys remember that.
The charts
I don't remember if you guys remember that team. It had some guy named Daps on it. Never heard of him.
Yeah, I don't know, man.
Anyone remember Automatic? I don't. No. I think he won a major one time.
This is
who's that guy?
I don't know, something like that. But. Yeah, this is we've got two more. There's 2 more RMR series left, correct?
Correct.
Yeah,
that'd be the correct assumption. Yes.
So we've got there's still 2 more chances for Bad News Bears and for other teams to try and claw their way in, but I kind of just wanted to talk about the event a little bit because CS Summit as a whole was just fucking hilarious this entire time. Like, it was probably it was the best run RMR out of all of them during this run, in my opinion. Like, it just had the least amount of issues, and it was just all the commentary was funny. Like, we're not pulling any epic leagues over here right now, so it just, the combination, good for Darf Mike. He made his appearance on there and he was very funny with the boys.
He was only on 3 times, but I wish he was on more, 4, but I think. What are you going to do?
Yeah, get the foot in the door. It's just, I just want to express my appreciation for just how awesome that event was. Like, I just wish more tournaments were like willing to take themselves a little less seriously for the sake of creating better content and just having more fun. So,
I think it's been said is that like in the online era, all the events have started to feel the same because unfortunately you can only hit a certain, like you can only become a certain amount of seriousness online because, you know, we can't really see the players that much. Like we don't get to see the crowd. There's not like the gravitas of the LAN environment. So it's like, you know, you can only get to like a certain amount of super seriousness before like, you know, and everyone's aiming for that same like threshold. So it's kind of just very samey. Like,
this was like the first event that I sat down and I watched like every single match. Like I was just there for the commentary. It was interesting. The format was fairly interesting too. Like, I mean, it wasn't anything special, but just like just overall, the presentation of the event was in a way that I actually wanted to watch. So big props there. Any other thoughts on CS Summit before we kind of scoot along?
I mean, I think it was like the only like it was the only event where I was just happy with every team. Like, I don't think any team really disappointed me there, or like, you know, just like imploded completely. Like I think everyone had a good showing commensurate to their abilities.
Supposedly, Extremum played really well.
Extreme was shocking. Like, I don't, you know, we don't really talk about them on the show because they do pretty much live in Europe. But I mean,
props to the Extreme moms. They're crazy.
True.
I think, you know, and they've basically got a guaranteed shot at. They should be like almost a guaranteed slot for the major at this point, but we'll have to see. So
the only intrigue here would be if Evil Geniuses makes any form of change, then you'd have Extra Salt going in, which is probably fair because Extra Salt are a better team than Evil Geniuses right now. So I'm kind of hoping that happens.
That would be good, especially considering Evil Geniuses, even if they kept their slot for the major, they would look
abysmal. I think they have like an 18% win. I think they have like an 18% win percentage right now.
They would get blown out of the water. So
they're almost. They should be out of top 30 by the end of June. Like if they don't gain any points, HLTV Decay will take them outside of the top 30, which is like abysmal for a team that's supposed to be an S tier. You know, an S tier
tier 1 team.
Yeah,
tier 1. They need to either take the RMR deductions and just rebuild, and then just hope they have really good showings in the next 2 series, or like that's like kind of like their only option at this point. You know,
my theory
as far as this major circuit.
I don't think they can really rebuild by picking out of pieces out of NA. So I think the future for them, unfortunately, is going European if they even want to stay in CSGO. I don't think they are going to stay in CSGO. They've been kind of one foot out the door for a very long time. But you take Cirque, you take Mihu, you take maybe you know, any of the American players who want to play from Europe, because they will be playing from Europe most likely this year, except for RMRs, and then you bring in European pieces, and that's kind of where you go.
We'll have to see. I think there's still a world where EG could rebuild with NA pieces, but they would have to get pretty experimental. So, well, we do have 2 minutes and 30 whatever the hell seconds left. So we've got 2 things left to cover. That is the Cash Cup. We're just going to run through it pretty fast because I was moving during this, so I didn't really get to watch much. And Koi lives outside now, so he also didn't get a chance to watch too much.
Can't say I watched any of it. I played all weekend.
Yeah, so we could just kind of cover it from the top, and just, you know, the finals was literally, it was Godsent and Bad News Bears. Godsent playing in their first NA Cash Cup, I believe, and they did in fact win it. So
kind of surprising, not gonna lie.
So yeah, it was Godsent, BNB.
Supposedly this was their best showing so far, like to date, and I couldn't believe it based off of what I heard from some of the Bad News Bears players. So.
Yeah, honestly, I can also expect that Bad News Bears, you know, going into this one, they are kind of adjusting to having shaken the roster, would be my assumption why they maybe didn't really.
No, I mean,
and they're also up against a very.
You just had them. They probably were just feeling it out, and they probably just played a little puggy, little loose to see what how people are feeling.
Mm-hmm.
It was probably a combination of Bad News Bears playing meh and then Godsent playing good, right?
Mm-hmm. So, and then I guess like the one storyline that we also wanted to cover on this was that Yenny Cherry pulled an Akuma and clapped censored and had a close game versus Big Chillin'. So this was, I did not write this one in the document, so whoever wrote that one's gonna have to explain themselves really quick.
Yeah, so basically one thing I do want to know, they're like a 4-4 advanced team or something like that, and they absolutely dominated censored 16-2. So that one was an interesting one. I still want to go back and watch the demo for that. And then Big Chillin', they pulled out a 1916 win there too, which was surprising.
You gotta take your guy /32, give him the demo, say, look at this demo, and tell me every time there's a crisp clean lock. All right, and then just
when he's looking off screen at a different monitor, yeah.
Yeah, he's like, look at that. Like,
I'm in a 1v2 right now.
I'm just looking straight up at the radar. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm in a 1v2 right now. What's happening?
Oh my lord.
Yeah.
So I guess that's the other line from that. But to kind of close out with our final 30 seconds, match to watch for this week, I'm going to start it off with Koi.
All right. So 100% is going to be. It's technically not this week. It is next Monday. But Party Astronauts versus Ruth Bader Ginsburg Esports. That's gonna be really good. Party Astronauts are still the worst team in North America, and RBG's looking pretty good. So. Pathetic
attempt at bait from intermediate player Koi CSGO. Triumph versus GDPR. I like Triumph.
All right, and then I am casting Big Chillin' versus Recon 5. That is tomorrow. Technically today when this episode comes out, because it'll come out on a Tuesday. So yeah, definitely go catch that because that'll actually be pretty interesting. So we don't have a match to miss this week, and it's also the end of the show, so we won't dive into that too much because the scheduling for this week for ESEA has been all over the place. So we don't really know exactly what all matches are actually happening and which ones are rescheduled, but whatever. So thank you for tuning in to this week's episode of the Max Rounds 30 podcast. Please be sure to subscribe because I see we get like 180 to 100 views on these videos, but we only have like 50 subscribers. What the hell's up with that, people? Come on, jeez.
I actually don't think I'm sub.
So, oh god, look at this guy.
I should probably sub.
So leave a comment down below.
If I can do it, you can too.
Give us the phonetic spelling of how, or the phonetic pronunciations for your names if you're a player, and do all that stuff. So thank you for tuning in. You have a fantastic rest of your week, and we will catch you later. Bye-bye.